You want to have the 5 C's on you mandatory at all times. The 5 C's refer to cutting, and we have duplicity, if not threes, of everything. Where here we have a Winkler knife, a belt knife, neck knife, and a Silky Gomboy 210 folding saw. Compass for directional purposes, that even if you don't have a map, you can find lots of ways off of geography to utilize a compass. Then you have your cordage. Right here we have a simple bank line, ready to use, about 25 feet. A ready to use rapid deployable ridge line of paracord, about 25 feet. And we have a boatload of extra, about 100 feet, 550 paracord. This allows us to do a lot of things. We could turn it in, we could technically even burn it, but we could suspend or lash down a variety of different bushcraft made items. And we could also turn it into a fishing line. The possibilities are endless. Perhaps one of the most important, besides the cutting and fire element, one of the most important aspects right here is having some type of cordage. As a bonus to go along with the compass, that we have GPS, the Garmin InReach Mini 2, and it moves on to combustion. We have a ferrocerium rod. This burns at about, the sparks shoot out at about 4,000 degrees once you scrape them off with the reverse edge of your knife. I also have a scraper in case you don't have a knife that's wrapped in camo tape that can also act as a starter for the fire. Then we have a regular Bic in an Exotac package, and then you have UCO stormproof matches. I thought they were Exotac before. To go along with the cutting, because it's perhaps the most dangerous aspect of it, if you're batoning wood or even using an axe, having some type of protective gloves, especially can save you from spurs and splinters, things like that could get annoying. They're more so for Newsome, to have a deep splinter stuck in you while you're out there, and it could be days before it comes out, or before you're able to get it out. Then we have some titanium tent stakes, about 4 of them. I switched away from, you can always create your own tent stakes with wood, but this is just to, this goes along with the rapid deployable ridgeline, or it also goes with the T60 emergency shelter from Coal Cracker Bushcraft from Dan Wowak. Sorry, Dan, I was pronouncing your name so many times in that video. Really apologize about that. But I was also mispronouncing this. I was saying emergency shelters. I think I was saying something like rapid deployable shelter system or something. But the T60, I'll get that right from here on out. Tent stakes can pair up with that, or with your tarp, any other type of tarp with some cordage. It just saves you time when you're setting up your bivouac. And I switched over from titanium from aluminum just because they hold up a little bit better, especially when the ground, depending on the season, is a lot stiffer, and depending on the region where you're at and the type of soil could be stiffer. Say if it's frozen, sometimes those aluminum stakes just don't do well and they straight up bend very easily. Moving on, we have the FHF chest rig. After some consideration, I would have liked to have this holster, retention holster, essentially up here. Kind of a nuisance to reach around and at least put it back in retention. It wasn't that bad to draw from, but I kind of had to slightly lift this edge to draw from. I know you can change the angle of that, so maybe that's what I'll do in the meantime, is at least change the angle so I don't have to reach around the edge of this. But moving on, we have some first aid considerations. This is the everyday wallet carry from Blue Force Gear. It's just a nice compact first aid kit that has, some gloves, chest seal, gauze, and compression wrap. And you could fit a little bit more in there, but I like the lightweight package. Not that that's the most ideal. I'd always like to have a more robust IFAK. I believe it's one of the more important items to have. That should include a triangular bandage, a splint, among other things. But this is all catered around or toward carrying something consistently day in and day out, transitioning from multiple different vehicles, going to different scenarios, going to different places, and always having it and carrying it in a sustainable manner. Emergency survival wrap. I don't like the bright orange. I do carry a bright orange just in case I need a signal, but I like to have the greens ones just so it doesn't draw too much attention. And of course, a tourniquet. You never know, you could cut yourself badly processing wood, or a number of accidents. You should have multiple. I had just one, unfortunately, but it's better than, one's better than none. This is really interesting. This I had picked up from the Gray Bearded Green Beret, Josh Einhart, with the teachings of the 5 C's from David Canterbury at the Pathfinder School. These gentlemen are some of my heroes, along with gentlemen like Dan Woolwack and Sean Kelly at Corporal's Corner. I think what they're doing is super cool. It's just awesome to see people into bushcraft in this modern day age, and they inspired me to get into it further. I'd always loved playing out in the woods and exploring, but been kind of taking it one step further to really push myself out there. And speaking of coal cracker, but I'm sorry, I didn't explain this. Basically, this is a 6 millimeter thick trash bag, construction heavy duty trash bag. What this allows you to do is, in a lightweight package, you can do, as I said before, with everything, it has at least dual purpose, if not multifunctional. Nothing in here needs to be carried for just a singular purpose. But for this, you could carry water. You could fill this up with water actually to help process. You could, if you needed to, fill up with snow. Could also fill up with sticks, a number of smalls, or kindling, what have you. Bring it back to camp so you're not carrying everything in your hands. You could also, if necessary, use it as a poncho or a makeshift pack cover as well. So there's a variety of things, and such a compact. I think it's that's funny, is out of all the tools here, this one is perhaps the most versatile and interesting to me, for being such a cheap price point as well. And this is 6 millimeter thick. I believe it's millimeters. So you're not having those sticks puncture unless it's a really, really sharp one. Just always like to carry electrolytes. Kind of takes your water further. Be careful about your electrolyte balance. You know, when you're sweating out so much, you don't want to just be pouring in water if you can help it. But, you know, if you have the luxury to do it, why not? And it's such a small, compact package. I really like Element just because of the quality of the potassium and magnesium used. I believe it's magnesium malate, which is far more bioavailable to my understanding in its absorption, along with potassium chloride, just a higher quality potassium and magnesium than you would in standalone potassium and magnesium supplements or other electrolytes. So they use high quality electrolytes. And what I mean by high quality, once again, is just the bioavailability of the electrolytes. You know, you get something like magnesium citrate and your body doesn't absorb it at the rate that it does malate. So just really liked having that. That came in clutch for the 90-degree weather yesterday. I always like to have boot bands, an extra. Usually I do lawn pants always. Yesterday I experimented with shorts. I don't think I'll be doing that again. I went through a lot of poison ivy, but nothing showed up yet. And it was more so just a nuisance to go through the brush and get that many cuts. Not a big deal, but just much more enjoyable, even if you're gonna sweat more, going in with lawn pants. I'm glad I tried it out though. But yeah, extra boot bands, you never know when you're gonna lose yours. But I've been getting, either if it's from Fall Raven or Cry, or just straight up using jeans or Carhartt, whatever. A lot of them are coming with the built-in ankle cinch down. I'm sorry, I can't remember what it's called, but like the cinch downs for like the wrapping around the ankle to close it up. But I like to use boot bands with that, and you can also always use boot bands for a variety of things, maybe tethering something down. You could also use this hook in some capacity for maybe in your fishing kit if needed. Moving on with the T60, probably out of everything that you see here, like by far the most enjoyable piece of gear in terms of its versatility, but in its just user friendliness. I think this might be my favorite piece of gear besides the Mystery Ranch In and Out, just for it's such a compact package, and the material that it's made out of just held up great last night in the pretty torrential downpour at some point with the consistent rain. Didn't see anything leak through, nothing ripped with the whipping winds. The amount of slack that they give you, and I can go into detail with maybe a video breakdown of all of these on their own, but the amount of slack that they give you It just makes you, I feel comfortable having anybody with no knowledge of knots at least tying, if not a square knot, you know, at least the same knot that you use to tie your shoes. So I feel comfortable that children could use this, or whoever. Moving on, actually my least favorite, while the Mystery Ranch In-N-Out 22 was my favorite in terms of the packs, I'm gonna kind of reevaluate the chest rig, at least what I was carrying. I really like this, I'm still gonna use it. What really turned me off real quick about the chest rig was just how I had the holster set up, but that was my own. And I just felt like I couldn't get the straps tight enough, but I just need more time with this chest rig in particular. I love this. This folds into itself, almost as small as this, believe it or not. Obviously a little bigger, but just so cool that it can fold down and has this many features of tie down points, variety of buckles, and can hold, it was holding that Grail water bottle side with no concern of it falling out. But this Mystery Ranch hip pack or butt pack, I was not happy with at all. And it's also probably still user error. I did like the cinch downs here, but I didn't really find a need for them last night. The quality, I mean, it's Mystery Ranch, it's great. But the problem that I had was the moment I started off with, I believe it was just this jacket. This is a packable jacket I'll talk about in a second, and something else in there that I'm blanking on, and it was no problem with the weight. But yesterday when I packed up, or this morning actually, excuse me, when I packed up, put the Helicon Swagman and then the gum blanket, which I don't have on this table just because it's so dirty right now, and amazing that I could fit both of those, but the weight of it just dragged down and it was just hanging over my butt, and it was just really annoying. So it's definitely, I see some utility out of it and other applications. Also, it came in clutch as a pillow with the backside here. That was probably the nicest aspect of it. So for that, I'm thankful. And obviously just the quality of it, there's no issues there. But in terms of, you know, riding this thing, rocking this thing without some type of suspender system, it's just not doable. And for if you're gonna get heavy weight, I think if you're gonna maybe have this vehicle borne, or have one particular semi-lightweight, medium weight item in here, then I think it's fine. But I think I'm gonna ditch this one from everything that you're seeing. I think it's a little redundant when you have the butt pack, the backpack, and the chest rig. It's nice. I thought, like I said earlier, that it just versatile carries, but it gets to the point where, you know, it diminishes from the minimalism that I'm going for, and the modularity is no longer being effective in its multi-function purpose. We're moving on to the Swagman roll from Helicon. Helicon Tex. I freaking love this thing. Like I said, you can use it as a hammock underquilt, universal blanket, right here on the package as it's saying, sleeping bag, and a summer sleeping bag as well. Sorry, the inner sleeping bag during the winter time, but also the poncho liner / like wooby, which I had basically used it as a sleeping bag last night, and then I also in the morning time I used it as a poncho liner, essentially, walking out. And nice compact package for the thickness. You know, it is obviously a little bigger than the others, but for the thickness in terms of you know, the heat retention that it provides, this thing's incredible. Now this is basically a rain jacket that's also packable, much smaller pack down. It is gray, and while that's not necessarily an issue out in the woods, it was also, this setup was based around starting out in an urban or city environment and making my way back home in the event of a natural disaster or other emergency, or getting to the next set of possible gear. Technically, you could live out of this for a very long time, but the idea was to get to the next safe spot, so to speak, with all of this, and to be always just have something if you find yourself in an emergency. Even if you're on like interstate and you can't stay in the car in the wintertime, or you will freeze to death depending on the environment and circumstances. You need to get out of your car, you need to be able to process wood, You need to set up a shelter. But before all that, obviously with the processing wood, you need to have the combustion sources that you do, and you need to get a fire going, especially for the winter time. And so as an option to stay in your car, that's just not going to fly, and you probably run out of gas at best. And if anything, maybe save it for the morning if you can get it jumped, and just basically sleep outside. But it would be uncomfortable, but this would be enough technically with a fire to get you through the night with that gum blanket. And this is also under the assumption that you'd be able to get some type of brush to act as a bedding as well, and really put those bushcraft skills to use. Just some 2 random items that I did not end up using, but I have here. I have a Arc'teryx balaclava and a First Light. This is also like a merino wool shirt. This is basically just in case I get soaked to the bone for the shirt that I can swap out easily. I just keep an extra shirt in there. Thermoregulation, and that's also the purpose of this balaclava. It's going to cover your ears and your head and some of your neck. At a minimum, just putting something between you and the wind would be nice. Whereas this is all aimed to be a lightweight package. That's why I don't have a full beanie in here, but I can easily add one. This was catering on the khaki side as to be a spring, summer, and fall setup, but you could use this, and I'd like to test this during the winter time. So that's everything you're seeing. You may not have seen on camera are the 2 Grail systems. These are basically like French press filters, and the one on the left that you're seeing is the titanium version. And the reason for that is it's taught at the Pathfinder School or Gray Bearded Green Beret School by Josh Einhart, and also at the Pathfinder School by David Canterbury. And just about in all bushcraft circles is you can't really go with the double-walled insulated stainless steel just because of how difficult it would be to heat up. But that's why you're going with the single-walled stainless steel. In this case, this is just a single-walled titanium. And so while you have the original Grail that is purely a plastic polymer, this could very well freeze, and it would be difficult, though possible, depending on your circumstance, to unfreeze with some nearby heat. But what you couldn't do is you could not boil with this sufficiently. I know there's maybe a tricky way where like technically you could boil it, but it's a little too risky, I think, to maintain the shape of everything of it. I could be wrong, but this is just too risky, to my understanding at least right now, that you cannot boil with this effectively and repeatedly. So that's why I got the titanium version, that you're able to boil water with this. The other consideration, not just from winter time in the snow, melting frozen water, but also disinfecting, like I said, for boiling, that just absolutely comes in clutch, and you can't rely on the plastic. So the shell is one consideration, but the filter longevity as well. So with the filter, you get about 300 gallons, about 60 gallons per filter. And that's about 300 presses. With that, that's only so much to guarantee the removal of the viruses, bacteria, protozoa, some of the heavy metals, I believe. The Grail is so robust and good at doing, but it's not sustainable for the long term. So that's the other benefit of having the titanium, is when that filter goes out, yes, you could maybe have a secondary filter with you, which is what both of these are going off of. I mean, it'd be able to process 120 gallons. I think you'd be able to, hopefully, but let's just say for the scenario of the long term, if you didn't have that option to process, you now have a single-walled titanium. So it's lighter. It's a little bit more difficult to my understanding to heat up than stainless steel, but in the lighter package, I think it's worth it. And I think that I would be not boiling water as often as I would with the stainless steel in my other carry kit setup system. So that, I appreciate you guys sticking through that. That's everything right here. I hope to go through more videos like this with different gear layouts. And please, let me know with the comments. It's my first time doing from this angle. If you guys maybe want like a separate camera to get closer on that, or that could be separate videos for single or individual items, and we could really do a full breakdown on that. But tell me what you guys think of this setup for this wide angle shot on this table for this variety of gear as an overview.